So, anybody watching the replay of this interview, you are in for a treat. Today, we're interviewing Mr. Donny Wong. And Donny actually used to work for Sean. So, we used to work together. He used to be on the coaching side of Sean's business, and he spoke to like thousands of aspiring Airbnb hosts. He coached them on taking the first step to start their business. And he actually had so much like success in his Airbnb business that he decided to focus on that full time. And right now he's managing 60 properties. That's a combination of like short-term rentals, mid-term rentals, long-term rentals. And he's generating 150K through 300K per month. And he actually earned 25K in profit from 7 properties while on a 3-week honeymoon in Japan and Bali, which congratulations on the marriage, by the way.
Thank you, my man.
And yeah, man. So I know you're a busy guy with all that going on. So I just want to thank you for coming on here and accepting the interview.
Well, you know what? You and I talked for so long, for so long, and then it feels like such a reunion. It feels like we're just right back to square one.
Yeah, man. And it's gonna be cool because I don't think we've ever done like a proper interview of you, really got in your story. So this is gonna be cool. So why don't we start at the beginning? Like what motivated you in the first place to even get into this business?
I was broke. That's what. So, I'm an entrepreneur through and through. I always wanted to start businesses. And even when I went to college, I was like, you know what? My first year of college, I was like, young and ambitious. I want to start $1 billion company. So I was like, you know what? No one here is doing it. I'm just going to go start doing companies, building companies. So I was doing that for a few years. I hopped around. What I really found my niche in was sales, really, really strong sales. This just happened to be where I always landed. And so when I actually finished working for a company in Toronto, left home, moved to the east of Canada for about 7 years, and just really focused on sales. When I was done with that business, I had devoted some of my best years to that company. Between the ages of 20, well, I'd say 27 to 32, I was with this company giving it my all. Literally, I thought my life would be with him, and then had a bit of a falling out with him at the end.
Mm.
Corporations. I still love him to death, and my boss there is one of my best friends, my mentors. But what happened was when I left that job, I realized, you know what? I have no control over anything. I'm going to go back and just start my own company as I always wanted to. And I was starting a different company. It was a CBD company at the time. And I was listening to a podcast and it said, you know what, you can start Airbnb and you don't have to own the properties. This is way before, this is when Sean was maybe in year one and his YouTube channel was how far it was ago. And I said, you know what, I'm an entrepreneur. I could do that. So I started, and it was all under the pretense that I was living with in my best friend's condo at the time. He gave me a smoking deal. He's like, Donnie, you're getting back on your feet. Because I had just moved back to Calgary with literally a suitcase and a duffel bag. That's all. That's all of my entire possessions. I was deep in debt, and he gave me a smoking deal in the condo. And I said, and I went to him. I was like, you know what? John's his name. I was like, you know what, John? We're gonna turn this into an Airbnb because he had it furnished. And I was like, I gave him the whole pitch. I'm like, we'll turn it to Airbnb, income producing. It's going to be great. And John goes, well, Donnie, that's a great idea, but where are you going to sleep? And I said, don't worry about that. We'll figure it out when it comes. So him and I were in a mad dash, putting together furniture, getting it ready. And I just end up sleeping on another one of our good friends' air mattress for a couple weeks just to figure it out. I didn't care. I was burn the boats. We'll figure this out. And what was amazing is we turned on our listing, and I went back to my day job at the time, and I think I came back 4 hours later, and we had made our first $1,500, which to all Airbnb hosts, that's extremely normal. You turn it on, you're going to make thousands of dollars in the first hours, just the way the algorithm works. And I went to John and I said, you know what? If we can just capture this part in a bottle, if we can just figure out how the heck that just happened, $1,500 in 4 hours, I think we got something. And so what happened, that set us off in a course of a mission because at the time, the real estate industry in Calgary, Alberta was horrible. Landlords were losing $500, $600, $700 per month bleeding on their mortgages. So our original mission, which 7 years later, it's really, been in our DNA is how do we protect our friends from losing money, stabilize their properties, and ultimately how do we free them with cash flow? And that's what led on this 7 year journey. Airbnb really was the beginning. I think we got it up to about 10 properties. And, I was broadcasting everything on Instagram, and everyone from the outside was watching. They're like, "Oh my God, Donny's kicking ass. He's doing all these things. He's got these beautiful properties downtown Calgary. He's killing it." But internally, we weren't making any money. So you have 10 properties and you're making $0, and but our clients are getting all their overpriced mortgages paid for and the bills. Turns out we were just making horrible deals. And so we started figuring out how to scale back. And that's when I ultimately really dug deep and I was like, you know what? I would love to work with someone or be coached by someone. And that's when one day your guys' email came through. I'm a hardcore Sean Rockagich fan, been, learning on YouTube for 7 some odd years. But when you guys shot the email where you said you guys were looking for people to join the team, that was it for me. I was like, I've been an entrepreneur for very long, but I only join companies when I can learn. And it was
Hmm.
just such a perfect synchronicity. And I thought, you know what? Definitely no one's going to be able to outsell me. And I know the product inside and out. I've watched every Sean Rockage video. It helped me stabilize my portfolio. So if I could get closer to the team, it would just be nothing but selfishly amazing for me.
Yeah. Nice. And I kind of want to go back to that first property that you mentioned. So the way it went down, sounds like your friend had a condo,
That's
and
right.
he was like, let's try to make a business out of this, like putting it on Airbnb, right?
That's right.
So what was like the deal with that you did with him like? Was it like, yeah, tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, you know what? Very simply put, because he was my friend and I was already renting from him, my simple deal was, hey, let's turn this to an Airbnb. We'll split everything 50-50. And I'll still cover the rent in the meantime. So it's a mix of a rental arbitrage and say just, they give him a no-brainer deal. New students don't do this. It's just you're not going to make any money. But it's such a great question, Alberto, because a lot of people always ask, like, how do I get started? Well,
Mm,
if you take this screen and you just divide it into quarters, you can really get started no matter what. And so if you take this and you just take 4 quadrants, I just call this the 4 quadrants of getting started. On this axis right here is how much money you have. So if this side you have zero money, this side you have tons of money. Call it $100,000. And on this axis, you have a home or you have zero properties. Okay. So this is if you have properties to one property to zero property, no money to some money to lots of money. On every axis, you can get started. I started with no money and no property. And with
mm,
that, you can do a property management deal, right? You can go to property owners and say, hey, Mr. Whatever, you're struggling with your mortgage. I might have a solution for you. I'll do all of the work. I'll handle absolutely everything. And I should be able to increase cash flow more than just putting on the normal rental market. That's one way. If you have a little bit of money, you can go rental arbitrage, right? This is what Sean has been the master of. If you have a little bit of money, even 5,000, 10,000, you can go approach landlords and tell them, hey, I'm going to rent this property with the intention of turning it into an accommodated stay. The advantage to you is we're keeping it in showroom condition. The advantage to me is that, I make the spread, but I'll guarantee you the rent. And then, of course, if you have a little bit more money, you can buy a property. And if you buy a property, there's just so many more multiples you can put onto it, the way that you can value add to it. And then all the way when you have lots of money, now you can start buying multifamily and really start turning this business into, a whole nother stratosphere.
nice. And the cool thing about you is that you've done all three of them, right?
Yep, I've done them all. I've had success in varying degrees in them all, but I think where my journey kind of helped me was because I'm a property manager for long-term rentals, but I got my start in short-term rentals. I bridge the gap with midterm rentals. So what I tell my clients is I can move them to the highest revenue producing opportunity, no matter the season or the market or the market conditions. Ultimately, what that means is I've just been able to see a lot. Working with the students of Million Dollar Renter, that gave me, I got to see markets evolve. I got to see, brand new markets. I got to see markets that were thriving. I got to see markets that were, completely overrun, and I got to see markets that were shut down. And I got that kind of crystal ball into watching how the Canadian markets would evolve. And I got to speak to a lot of the Canadian students that, that because they didn't have anyone that understood the Canadian market. I got to talk to them through that. But ultimately, what that meant was I just really understood what was coming and ultimately how to get around that. And that's where, come full circle 7 years later, I don't try to build the largest portfolio anymore. I truly just focus on, hey, how do I just build the highest revenue generating Airbnb? The big aha moment you kind of mentioned was when I went on my honeymoon with my wife. I think everyone tries to escape. Um, they want to get into Airbnb to win their time back. But if
Mhm.
done wrong, they very quickly lose all of their time because now you're running a 24-hour hotel service. That's what a lot of the students, the
Mm.
um, the DIY students, before they joined our course, they were in the DIY. And what happens was like me in the early stages, their business went out of control and just engulfed their whole life, and they weren't making any money. And that's where experience really helps you pave the course and save a lot of time and energy. No difference here. And that's why to this day, I'm looking for more high revenue, a lot less properties, a lot higher revenue. And I don't want it to consume my time. I'm trying to win as much as my time back.
Nice. And I think you also mentioned this earlier, like one of the main things that was, I mean, you had all these properties for a while, but like on the outside it looks cool, right? Like, oh, I have these many properties, but you weren't making that much like profit from it, right? In the
Yep,
beginning, you said like you were struggling a little bit. So, and you said it was like having to do mostly with the deals you were doing, right?
that's right.
So, can you tell us a little bit more about like what you wish you hadn't had done, what deals you wish you hadn't had done? That way other people can avoid them.
For sure, for sure. You know what? Structuring deals is so hard because that's not a beginner skill set. Nor can you actually, you can't do it in the beginning because you're completely guessing. You guess
Mm.
wrong and you can completely, put yourself in the ass end of a bad deal here. And, a lot of people say that, oh, I'll figure it out. Well, you're right. And that does sort of work. But the one thing you can't get wrong is the deal. You mess the deal up, either you don't get the property or you put yourself in a really, really bad situation. Our original deals were we would pay for them, we'd pay the mortgage out, and we'd pay all the utilities, no matter what, guaranteed. Well, guess what? The market is only the market, and you'll only get as much as the market unless you're such a great operator, executor, you have an amazing brand, or you have amazing value to present to the market where you can make more money, you can charge higher. But in the beginning, if you don't know how to structure a deal, and that's why I think Sean's actually the best. He's incredible at sales, and he's incredible at pricing and the structuring of deals. In the very beginning, if we had that put in place, we would have moved probably two, three, four times faster, just understanding how to structure the deal, because we would have profit coming in at a very high clip, which would have helped us expand a lot faster.
Yeah, what I've heard a lot from our past students, people like Monish and like Josh, is that like when they were first starting out, they were feeling like, I guess it's also like a mental thing. Like you think all these people that have properties are like doing you a favor, like you don't bring anything to the table. And when you do that, I guess when you try to like deal with them, it kind of comes off and they're like, okay, I'm doing you a favor and you get like the worst deal ever. But when you realize how much you're offering them too, of like you know, always keeping their property in like perfect condition because it like benefits your business. Always paying them, doing extra long leases. You're able to negotiate in things like pre-rent, things like that, and really save yourself like thousands of dollars on the
You, you
deal.
you said it right there, Alberto. It's just understanding what to negotiate on, understanding what the landlord is going to say before they say it, because they only have so many tools. So when you know what they're going to present before you get to the table, you already understand how to lead this conversation. It's a completely different discussion, which will then naturally you will come off as confident. But when you don't know any of this stuff, you're not confident because you've never seen any of it. And when they ask you one question, your brain is reeling because you're just trying to figure out how to answer it. You can't structure the deal when you don't even know how to reply. That's one of the biggest parts of the course of getting the deal is just understanding what the landlord's going to say, what you should say, and therefore how to structure the deal, and therefore you'll be more confident, and then therefore you will automatically your aura. I hate to get woo woo, but it's true. Your
Yeah.
your voice will come off strong. Your body language will come off strong. You'll use the same verbiage that's used in that industry, and therefore the other person on the side table will understand you're not an amateur. So it's the core foundational learning and coaching, which therefore makes you confident, and therefore you can actually go in and seem confident.
Yeah. And also something like when you're going out and picking these properties, like were you like what was the market research that you're doing looking like? Like how did you decide? Like is it all based on the deal or does it matter also like the market research, like exactly where you pick it?
It absolutely does. Yeah. The area of the city matters a lot. You know, this is where Sean's free stuff is out of control. He really was one of the first people to bring, pretty fundamental economics into his YouTube videos. I think a lot of people didn't understand what he's actually talking about in his free stuff. Things like where he talks about, just look for McDonald's and Starbucks close by. They're not wrong. You're not smarter than Starbucks. They spend millions and millions of dollars in understanding where to put a location. You're not going to outsmart them. So, there's someone I found a long time. This is not my concept, but it's brilliant. It's called the Burger King strategy. So if you want to know where to put your Airbnb, Burger King strategy was really simple. They crushed it because they just put a Burger King wherever McDonald's was. It's called
Mm.
the Burger King strategy. So they just piggyback wherever McDonald's put theirs. They already did the research. Burger King will just plop one right by. So if you don't have all those tools with you, the easiest thing you can do is just go find the highest revenue producing Airbnbs and just figure out, hey, maybe if I can just put it close to them, maybe there's some sort of jackpot there. There's way more to it. Obviously, the execution, their niche audience, with their pricing, their pictures, the presentation, the wrapping, all that matters too. But if you just simply use the Burger King strategy, that alone can at least get you into the right quadrants of the city.
Yeah, so I guess my question then would be like, how do you go about figuring out which Airbnbs are actually producing, you know?
Yeah. You know, the easiest way I would say is you can use Airbnb. If you have no money, again, if we go back to the four quadrants and you have no money and no property, then you're going to have to do the brute force. You're going to have to go to Airbnb. You're going to find all the properties. You're going to go, look 6 months, 3 months out. Preferably look in slower season because then everything will be open. Start printing them out, start picking days, like 3 days at a time. Start looking at what pops up, what populates, find the properties, go through and actually look for the indicators. Every listing has indicators of what to look for of its if it's successful or not. Now, when you're in the beginning, you're not going to know. Intermediates, people who have hosted, you generally will know what to look for. And then, of course, if you want the cheat code, I use Price Labs. It's $10. It's 10.99, I think USD, so $600 Canadian, and it's a report. And it's the best report you could possibly get. It gives you a map, you just circle the map, and it pulls all the data for every listing on both platforms of Airbnb and what's it called? And VRBO. Now, will you be able to understand that data when you're brand new? Probably not. That's why I think for intermediates, it works really well for market research. But I'll tell you what I do now that I'm in this part of the bracket here, because I've done it cheap. I've done intermediate. Now, I think when you're a pro, we don't use market data as much. I'm solely building Airbnbs as a market of one, and build solely for one niche. We purpose built for them so that we're no longer reliant on the market. So that I'm not beholden to the Airbnb algorithm. We build our own, we build towards one audience, we market towards one audience, and we really try to make sure that we're not beholden to seasonality and algorithms that way.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard Sean speak on that as well. Like, um, you could really dial in a niche, like really service a specific niche with your Airbnbs, like traveling
Bingo.
or people that just want to travel, things like that, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Got it. So if you want to figure out the most, okay, I guess let me summarize what you just said. So basically, market research, easy way is just to find other profitable Airbnbs. The way to do that, you can do it for free on Airbnb, like you said, like just kind
Yep.
of look the and I think Sean has free trainings on how to do this.
His
So
free training walks you through exactly how to do that. And he actually goes through the listings, walks you through that. So again, if you have no money and no houses yet, go find that training video because Sean walks you through it.
yeah, I'll link those in the description. And awesome. And then you could also use Price Labs and get more
Yeah.
data, go through all
Price
that.
Labs is great. Price Labs is what I use when I have customers and clients who are looking to hire me to start an Airbnb and they already have a property. So if they have a property, how I choose if I'm going to pick it up or not is I'm going to pull that data from Price Labs. Because what I don't want to do again is I don't want to just keep taking on properties for the sake of taking on properties. Because once I'm just competing at the what I call a mid Airbnb, Sean talks about this lots. Markets evolve. In the beginning, you just throw anything up and you're gonna make money.
Hmm.
The second level is now everything has to be, they have to be clean and up to date. The third evolution of your market is when it has to be a high level. They have to have professional photos. They have to be really design forward to even compete. That's where Calgary is now. Everything looks nice. Everything has great design, different design. Everything has high-end, furniture. And then the last level is experiential Airbnbs. This is where, oh, who's your coach out in the Poconos again?
Josh
Josh.
Flip.
I love Josh because I remember when I interviewed him years ago, he was already thinking about that. In the mountains, you have to put out some sort of experience. So
Hmm.
I do that in the urban. I'm more of an urban host, but it's all about the experiences. How do you purpose build an experience that caters to one audience because everybody else is trying to cater to everybody? And there's an old marketing term that's if you advertise to everybody, you advertise to nobody. And
Hmm.
therefore, if you can't set yourself apart from anybody else other than you have a hot tub, then you better pray nobody else has a hot tub. And so that again, that's real pro level, but there's still lots of money to be made from, this quadrant to this quadrant.
Yeah, and that's actually something I hear a lot of students ask about. Like, because like you said, Sean said in the beginning, you could throw up like like a mattress on the floor, maybe like just put it in a room and people would like be happy booking that and you'd make money easily. But like the market's evolved and and I always hear people ask like, is Airbnb dead? Like in 2025, like right now,
Yep.
is it worth doing? Is it oversaturated? Is it even like worth the work? And I want to ask you that. Like, what do you think? Like, is it even worth somebody who's getting started right now to do it?
Yes. Yes. You know what? I actually I have a strong, strong belief now that, I've been a real estate professional for many years. I've worked with lots of Airbnb hosts, thousands of Airbnb hosts across the country, and the work that we do here in Canada. I believe that every single person should own one income producing property, hands down.
Mm,
If there's anything that you can do in life, you should try to figure out how to get one income producing property, just one. And again, that's why the quadrants are so important because if you can't afford a house, affordability has really gone out of reach for this next generation, especially in Canada. You guys still have affordable housing, and I don't mean affordable as in like Section 8. I mean affordable as in it's under $300,000. Whereas in
mm,
my city, the average price is $600,000. That's a lot to ask for an entry level home, right? So, how do you get yourself an income producing property? You might not have to own it. Maybe you can arbitrage it. Maybe you don't even have to arbitrage it. Maybe you can JV it. Well, that's actually up here, a JV. Actually, no, it's about here. According to this quadrant, a
yeah.
JV is here. You partner with someone with the money. I'll do all the work. We'll split the profits. And then all the way, if you just have no money whatsoever, maybe you can manage it for someone who's just, they don't want to be a landlord. Maybe they were an accidental landlord. Accidental landlord who's someone who maybe they got the house because somebody died, unfortunately. Maybe it's because their family got so big that now they have to move because the kids are growing up, they have to buy a new house. Wasn't time to sell. Now they're an accidental landlord. They don't want to be a landlord. Nobody in their right mind wants to be a landlord, except for us
Mm.
crazy people. So I believe everybody should just have one, right? Because one can actually change your life. And Alberto, when I was talking to students on the phone, and I'd always ask them like, "How much do you want to make?" Do you know what the number one most common answer? I would say the overwhelming majority of what people say they want to make on Airbnb is
Like per year?
per year,
Probably 100,000. I don't know.
100,000. That's a
Yeah.
great guess. The most common answer I got when I asked people, "How much do you want to make on Airbnb?" was $1 million.
No snap.
$1 million. I think a lot of people don't understand that that's $88,000 per month. And I think when they think that far ahead, it does seem impossible. Whereas where I always try to tell people is why you should just have one property is because if you even just made $5,000 extra per month, just five, it would very most likely change your entire family's life. If nothing changed in your life right now, except you got an extra $5,000 check every single month, just imagine if you put that in savings. How fast could you knock down student debt? How fast could you pay off bad debt, credit card debt? And that's one of the things we've talked about a lot of students. They're just kind of backed up against the wall. They didn't know what to do. Or how much time could you win back? Could you win back your weekends? Could you tell your boss, you know what? I'm not coming back. I'm taking an extra week off because my granddaughter was just born. I'm not coming back. I'm staying here for 3 weeks. And if you have
Mhm.
that extra $5,000 per month, it's called, can we swear on this show?
Sure.
It's called
Yeah, I
fuck
don't
you
mind.
money,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's FU money. But a lot of people think that's $1 million. No, it could be as much as 5 grand per month. And you know what? I tell you what, five will change. I would say 99% of people's lives. $2,000 will completely change how you think your day to day. That's what I think a lot of people when we talk to the students, they were so pinned up against the wall because they had no breathing space. They just felt like they were always either drowning in information or drowning in debt or drowning because their corporation stole all their time. If they just got $2,000 extra, it would almost unlock their dreams because you could build anything if you had an extra $2,000 per month. And that's what one Airbnb can do easily,
Hmm.
easily. So, do I believe that it's saturated? No, because I've evolved now to understand that it's not the market, it's what you offer, right? Is the chocolate industry saturated? Chocolate's been around for 100 years. Chocolate bars have been around 100 years. Who's controlled it? Hershey. And then all of a sudden, this kid named Jimmy, who's 25 years old, released a Mr. Beast bar and completely destroys the entire chocolate market.
Yeah.
So, is it saturated? No, it's do you know how to be a good operator? And I think now more than ever, if you want to compete, if you want to compete from day one, if you don't want to get eliminated before it starts, that's why, having the right people in your corner helps you leapfrog the 5 years it took me to learn all these lessons here, right? You can learn from Monish, you can learn from um, Josh, right? You can learn from these amazing coaches that you guys have added, and you don't have to trial and error your way through. Tony Robbins says this in one of his most expensive courses. Trial and error is the sorriest way to mastery. So
Hmm.
that's my answer to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I've seen the same thing in my life. Like the biggest like uh like shortcuts, things I feel like shortcuts is just basically finding awesome advice. And the good thing about nowadays is like it's you don't necessarily even have to pay money to do that. Like Sean's been
Hmm.
giving out free content for so long, and so many people just from the free content have gotten like great results, you know? So like
Without a doubt.
yeah, always doing homework is is important. Also a balance, right? Don't do too much homework to where you get like what do you call it?
Analysis paralysis.
Analysis paralysis, right?
Yep. Analysis paralysis. There's a tax that you pay. You either pay the tax from time or you pay the tax from paying the dollars. And so what a lot of people don't understand is that when they say, "Oh, I'll just figure it out myself. I'll just do it myself." Well, you've only gotten this far from doing it yourself. But more importantly, how much do you value your time? Because if let's say I don't know, throw out a number. What if something costs $3,000? I don't know. But what if it saves you 100 hours of time? That's
Mm,
$30 per hour. You're valuing your time at $30 per hour. You're telling me you're going to make $1 million per year, but you value your time at $30 per hour. That's why you can't start because you're stuck in a $30 per hour mindset.
mm,
And that's where I find a lot of people get stuck. It's right there. They don't understand that what they just said. It's because their mindset is it's too low. It's too low of knowledge to move forward. So if you they do this lots now. Naval, I don't know, he's one of the best. The CEOs all hire him. Silicon Valley, just an absolute sage. He had this. He has this podcast called How to Get Rich Without Getting Lucky. It's a 3 hour podcast, essential listening for almost anyone who's in entrepreneur space. But he talks about valuing your time at a clip that's unrealistic. That's
mm,
completely unrealistic so that you value your time and that you make the right decisions. And he says start at $5,000 per hour. And if it's not
Uh,
$5,000 per hour, you have to think of solutions, either automate, delegate, delete, to make sure that you have leverage to grow and grow fast, or else you will be stuck at that job forever.
yeah. Or else also like you mentioned, you can build a Airbnb business and rather than have it be that business that kind of like gives you that dream lifestyle you want, it could like suck all your time away. But from what like you mentioned earlier, like, I mean that's kind of like awesome. Like the fact that you went to 3 week honeymoon in Japan and Bali, which I really want to go to Japan and Bali. Like
You have to. You have to.
those sounds like so cool. But like while you're not only sometimes people when go they go on vacation, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna enjoy it, but dang man, I'm taking like a hit financially from this, and you just kind of push that to your back of your mind. But you were able to go on there, and it's like you don't have that. Like
Yeah.
you're making money while you're over there.
Yep.
So how did you do that? Like what
Yeah.
systems did you have in place?
So I will confess something. When I left MDR, when I left Million Dollar Renter, it's because my company was bringing in hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue. But because of costs, because of employees, it still wasn't generating very much. And so what I had to do was when I left, I had to tear down my portfolio. I had to
Mm,
rebuild my entire portfolio for the second time because it wasn't serving the lifestyle that I wanted. This is actually what happened. So I have a long-term rental business, traditional property management, and then we have the short-term rental side. My partner, who's this basically Rain Man, Filipino Rain Man, he loves numbers and he dives through all our numbers and he does our accounting and he goes, Donnie, we're making way more on the STR than the LTR by far. But I want you to look at something. And he pulls up this thing and he's like, look at the dollars per hour. He's like, dollars per hour, you're making way less on short-term rental. Way less. Even though we're making way more volume, you're making way less dollars per hour, which means it's sucking your life away.
mm,
And so that's where we had to really, for the second time in my life, swallow the hard pill and say, I have to tear apart this whole portfolio again. And we had to rebuild it properly. We had to really put in the right systems. I think for intermediate operators, they'll run into this where they're like, all these subscriptions are so expensive. Hostaway, $250. Um, Pricing strategy, that's a whole couple $100 here, a couple $100 there. Like all the software starts chipping away at you. You know, Minute is now increasing the prices. They make you charge per year. These are all the things that intermediate host now runs into where they're like, oh my God, my expenses are getting killed. So I rebuilt my portfolio again. And this time I fired my team. They weren't listening to me properly. They weren't good enough operators that they could build. And I needed someone that could build. So to prove a point, we stripped it down and I rebuilt it on two websites. That's it. I'm now my entire portfolio runs on Airbnb and Turno. And it can literally run, and that's how I ran seven properties. And so I had a completely automated seven properties. It can do all of your customer service easily. It can do all of your inventory, which was a huge one. You can really ensure that all the little bits of running your hotel are completely taken care of on literally just two websites. So that's what I did to rebuild it. And when I was on my honeymoon, my goal was to make $20,000 when I was gone and hand over this new system so that anyone could do it. So what I did was, if anyone hasn't done this already, what you want to do is record everything you do. So whatever you do, you want to go to loom.com and on the computer, it will record all your mouse clicks and everything. And you want to record every single thing you do. And then you want to open up a Google, use Google Office, open a Google Sheet and start making what's called an SOP. And using just Airbnb internal, you can easily get up to seven properties, make tens of $1,000s per month. I'm proof of this. I've done it for a couple of years now, and it's a solid process. And it costs you $50 a month.
for Loom or for what?
For Turno.
Turno.
Yeah.
Okay. So Turno is like a what is Turno exactly? It's like a
It's
site like Airbnb.
it's a turnover B&B site. It used to be called turnover B&B, but what it is, it's a marketplace for cleaners. So I
Oh,
that
okay.
one site solved tons and tons of problems for Airbnb hosts. First off, it's the Airbnb for cleaners. So in your market, all the cleaners have their own profile. You can select all the cleaners and see their background. And then when you have a property, you put it up onto the marketplace and it's a bidding system. and all the cleaners have to bid for your job. And then once you get them on, now they become your cleaner. You have your SOP, your cleaning SOPs right on the property. So when they click, they already see your property. They know the codes. They know how to get in. They know where everything is. There's instructions that you leave, checklists, so they know how to properly turn over your property, not just clean it. Again, intermediate hosts will understand this. There's cleaners and then there's experienced resetters. And if
Mm,
you just have the bare basic, you need cleaner, hey, no problem. That's perfect. But when you have more experiential Airbnbs like what I'm building, you need a specific type of cleaner that understands how to reset the experience. And that's where
hmm.
Turno really kicks ass. And then, of course, I'll never be stuck without a cleaner because even if that one can't show up, I literally, even at the 11th hour, if I don't have a cleaner, I just put the job back on the marketplace. They bid, I'll have them in there within the hour. And then within the software, there's ways to make sure that your SOPs are done. There's ways to make sure that your inventory is done right. And then you can even get all your maintenance done through that platform as well. So as a beginner, I really had to restrip and restructure my whole entire portfolio. Because again, I don't want to have 50 properties and I can't even sit down for dinner.
Yeah.
I have a big rule where, at this stage of my life, it's all devoted to my family. And,
Mm,
my wife and I are trying to have a family. So I
mm.
don't want to be the guy that's running around nonstop, phones ringing on Thanksgiving because somebody's locked out. That will happen, but if you build it right from the get-go, you can eliminate a lot of, the interruptions in life.
And I think I've always heard this, but like, would you say that the cleaner is like the like hiring a good cleaner is like the main one of the main keys to having that happen? Would you say that?
They're
Or
in the home 90% more than you are. So they stare their eyes, they see absolutely everything. If they reset the home, they're the ones that really ensure that the guests have that experience when you walk back in. There's all these little things that come in place. Your cleaners are the backbone of the entire business here.
and on that marketplace that you mentioned, Turno, right? It's called.
Turno, it's an app.
Yeah, on that app. So how do you? Because I imagine you don't just take anybody who bids for your to to the business with you, right? Like you, I imagine you have like some system to see, okay, who's someone that's actually going to be able to like clean my Airbnb and reset it like how I want it, you know? Or is it just kind of like a trial by error type thing? How's that work?
Well, that's what's amazing about the Turno app is that each cleaner has a profile, much like an Airbnb listing. And it
Hmm.
has reviews, it has stars, it has what they're known for, what they excel at. Has so that's the amazing part. It's tough to cheat the system when you have 25 five-star reviews. So as long as you're already picking the best, and not only that, they can bid on price. So some will come in a little bit cheaper than you need, some will come in a little bit more. But ultimately, you can find whoever's the best. You can fire them on the spot, and you're not left in the dust trying to Google cleaners and call them up and whatnot.
Nice. That's awesome. So key for systems is one, SOPs, which if y'all don't know means standard operating procedures, right? Um, which is documenting everything, like you said, really making it easy for that person to follow your process and your systems for like resetting the Airbnb. And also with Loom. Loom's a really good tool. We use it in the business a lot as
Yeah,
well.
definitely.
And Turno, right?
Turno, that's right. So
Turno.
I guess the best way I can describe this, again, guys, if we have the quadrant, if you need to build a company with $0, it's totally possible. It's completely possible. I did it with $0. In fact, I went bankrupt while I was trying to rebuild my finances, and I still rebuilt it twice. All the way till if you have tons of money, there's lots of opportunity here. But ultimately, I think the best way for me to solve the biggest problem that everybody asks is like, hey, is it saturated? Is the Houston Medical Center, is it saturated? Is Miami saturated? Well, the best way I can describe this, Alberto, is with a story, and
Mhm.
it was told by Jeff Bezos in an interview, and they were talking about that at one point Jeff Bezos was delivering the books himself when Amazon was just a bookstore, and Jeff said, he doesn't do that anymore, but for years he did. He was packing the books by himself. He was on the floor with, his team, and they're just packing all the books, and their knees and their back were killing them, just killing them from all these packing all these books. And so Jeff says, you know what? we need some knee pads. Let's get some knee pads. And the teammate beside him goes, well, why don't we just get a table, like a packing table? And Jeff goes, that's brilliant. So the next day he gets tables, they set up tables, and their production skyrocketed. And Jeff Bezos goes on to say, well, the moral of the story is solve the right problem. So
Mm,
when we talk about these markets that are saturated, I would always go back and say, well, what problem are you solving? Is your problem that you don't have enough money, so then you need to go on Airbnb? Well, you're not solving a problem for anyone else. People are not going to buy a solution because you don't have enough money. But in my case, what if I figured out that this was one of my early concepts. It's called Foodie's Ultimate Getaway. And we had specific Airbnbs built in downtown Calgary that were close to food markets, and the kitchen was done up really nice so that people who were foodies, they were smack dab in the central of all the restaurants and lounges and
mm,
markets, so that the food was there. All our guides were built around food. Whether
mm.
it's the five-star restaurants that take weeks in advance, or you just want to cook at home, it was built specifically for that. My next concept, it's coming up. I'm not going to talk too much about it yet because we have to do a lot of client research now, guest avatar research. But on my Instagram, I'll be, posting the journey so that those who are more interested in that, experiential stays, come along, follow me, see, how we're making the most accurate decisions to make sure that we have high revenue Airbnbs.
Yeah, shout out your Instagram so they can follow you.
For sure. If anyone's interested in all the babbling and all the nonsense I've been talking about, my Instagram is Taking Lunch Money. That's a TAKIN, lunch money. We're doing a huge push right now. You guys can see, the life of we do long-term rental, we do short-term rental, and I think this next product we're bringing out, we're actually going to focus more on mid-term rentals, and then use short-term rental to sell off the off days.
Nice. And so as we're coming on like 45 minutes, I had some student questions here, but I don't know how long do you have?
I have as long as you need, my friend.
Awesome. Awesome. That'll be good because I sent out an email like, hey, I'm gonna interview this guy and I got a lot of questions, so
Send it.
here we go. One question that many people had was like, have you handled properties or like worked in cities that have have restrictions against like short-term rentals or Airbnb and like what was your solution in dealing with that?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. So remember I was telling you how cities have cycles, or I should say, markets have cycles. Well, the four cycle market cycles is it's in its infancy stage where there's no rules. It's the wild wild west. They barely even seen Airbnb, so you can just go in there and just go bananas. The second
Mm,
part of the market cycle is when now everybody starts catching wind of it. So now all the Airbnbs are coming to market. The third part is when restrictions, I shouldn't say restrictions, we should say bylaws start coming in. That's actually the best part. When bylaws are in place, it's one of the best times because now the city is literally telling you this is how you operate legally in our city. So that's actually the best time. Calgary's in that phase right now where the city's telling you, hey, to get a license, just do this. It's like perfect. Because it weeds out all the amateurs who are just trying to get in there. They're going to run into the most trouble because they're going to start a business and it's going to stall tremendously because they're going to get shut down. That's why you shouldn't build illegal Airbnbs. You're going to put too much time, money, and effort just for get shut down. Now you're doing midnight moves like hauling couches downstairs and
yeah.
finding places. We had a lot of students that did that before joining us. And then the last part is when there's full restrictions and they just shut down markets. And in those, what I have found, that's why in the quadrant, I believe in all that you do in life, you should own for ownership. And that's why I love arbitrage because it fits the middle of the quadrant because you can scale fast. It takes capital, but not as much as anyone else. It's a very sure thing. But the problem is you're missing out on the leverage, on the multiplying factor, because that business isn't worth very much. Well, Sean's is worth great, I'm sure. But that's the equity is when you own the property. And there's a couple of reasons why you should own the property, because when you own the property, you get the cash flow from the business, but it's also paying down the property that the bank loaned you at 80 to 95%. So owning real estate is the only business in the world where I only have to put down 5%. In America, you guys do 3%. It's amazing. It's
Yes.
America is the greatest place to own a house that I wish more Americans would take advantage of. Because in Canada, we just don't have all these advantages you guys have. We don't have 1049s, 1041s. You know, the when you sell a house, you can transfer without paying taxes.
Mm,
You guys, capitalism in America is the greatest place on earth where if you work and you understand how to just stay with one thing for long enough, especially real estate, it's almost impossible not to get wealthy. So you
mm,
buy this property up here because A, the bank loaned you, the bank loaned you 97% of it. Your Airbnb guests are paying off the loan from the bank. You get to keep the extra, and over the years, your real estate is getting more valuable. So by the time you get to 10 year, 20 years, um, this thing's paid off, and you've literally secured your retirement because it's now paying you, you know, 1,500, $3,000 per month. And the exclamation point is even in the most strictest markets. I don't care if you're in what would that be? Not Washington. What's under Vancouver there? Where the Seahawks play? Seattle. Even if it's Seattle, even if it's LA, even in I don't know about New York anymore, but all the strictest markets, they always allow you to have an Airbnb in your residence. So that's
mm,
why I'm looking for personally, I'm getting ahead of my market and we're looking to acquire multifamily units. So that's the stage we're in now. We're looking for smaller multifamily units, anything from 2 units, which is, you know, a house with a legalized basement, to 4 units or eight plexes. And then that's where you can really not only make sure that your business survives, but if you do get to the multifamily units, all you need is one. All you need is one, and you've secured your bloodline forever. Now, that's for again for intermediate to pro. Now, if you're just a beginner, what if you're in a market that's really shut down? Move markets. Move markets, right? Go look for one in a different market. It's so easy to run one Airbnb. So easy. I could show people how to run seven like this, but one, you could do that in your sleep. Three is when you're starting to get into the game. Five is when you got a you got a full-time job. 10 is, you know, you're really trenched in. You're an Airbnb host, all right.
nice. Beautifully said. I love it. So next question is from Marlee Rose. She asked, how much are you concerned about margin versus just growing revenue?
Oh, such a good question. Is it Marley?
Marlee, yeah, I think that's how you pronounce
Marley. Such a great question. Thank you, Marley. I think this is one of the most important things as an operator you should be thinking about. You've heard my story. There is no point in having tons of revenue if there's no margins. There is no point. What's the point of doing this if you're not making money? So I do not bother with Airbnb now unless it's making fantastic margins. And I mean home runs. Because would you rather run 4 Airbnbs that make $700 or one that crushes 3 grand?
it. Mm,
Spend the extra time and just find the home run, and you'll thank yourself for it through and through.
nice. And you kind of touched on this, but I guess I'm curious if you have any others. Like what SOPs, standard operating procedures, have you modified over time? And what original processes have stuck? And that one's from Tommy.
Inventory.
Hmm.
Yeah. Excuse me, I got a bit of a runny nose here. It's flu season in Canada here.
Hmm.
Inventory is the one that really was a thorn in my side for a long time. Just keeping track of so many little things, so many of the consumables, for instance, it's annoying. It's annoying. I don't like it. And that's what really evolved the most. That's where Turno really changed everything for us. And developing a system where not only have we kept track of inventory, we have automatic reminders if thresholds get hit when they're too low, so that we're only ordering those things and doing it in a way that the cleaners, and in a very easy way where the cleaners are reporting it to us without the cleaners needing to be a part of inventory. So in other words, I could be anywhere on the planet and my system shows me here's the inventory thresholds. I can go to my cleaner reports and where they've taken a picture of the inventory closet so I can double check, hey, are my inventories actually low or has someone just entered in wrong? And then I just order from Amazon, ship everything to my house, and it's done. It has been a complete game changer. So that's a big one. What has stayed the same? What has stayed the same? Um, I think the messages have really stayed the same. The messaging and the guest experience has stayed the same in the sense of automating the guest onboarding and checking up on the guest and asking for the 5-star review. That hasn't changed for years. I think it's because I'm just in sales, so words matter a lot. Every single word, every text, every message we've ever sent, it's almost copywriting. Copywriting, not as in like my right to, not like, hold on,
Yeah,
like
kind of like
this.
marketing,
Yeah,
sales.
every single word that's ever used to sell is called copywriting. And so, because I'm so deeply in sales, our entire text onboarding and guest checkups, all the way to when they leave, has stayed the same for years. It's gold. It's how we get so many 5-star reviews. I think all my properties are 4.9 and above. I've got over, I think, my
Mm,
1,200 reviews now, and all of our properties are 4.9 and above. And it's just that has worked really well for us.
nice, nice. And this one comes from Chris Bain. He asked, "What are the best strategies for acquiring host management clients when relatively new?"
Okay. I did a talk a long time ago exactly about this. I start with the quadrant, of course.
Yeah.
And I tell everyone, if you're going to be a host manager, you have to solve the big problem. You have to solve a problem for someone. And so you have to figure out where the problems lie. And if you can solve a problem for somebody, they will give you the property. Comes full circle to, what we said before, where people come and they're like, well, if I just get this property, I just need this property. That's such a horrible way to come off it, because that's why you seem needy, because you need it. You need it because you haven't solved the property for them. And so this is what I gave a talk, and this was the example, which is everybody has money problems. Okay. Everybody. And the best way to describe this is Pablo Escobar had a really big problem back in the day. His
Mm,
problem was that he accepted everything in cash. And the problem with accepting everything in cash, by the way, he was making something like $1 billion every couple months, is hundreds of millions of dollars a month in cash. So the problem Pablo Escobar had was that rats were literally eating all of his money because he had to store them in walls and in the ground and safe houses. And rats were eating something to the amount of $42 million per month. It's a really big problem that he had.
yeah.
So you have to take that. So the whole point of the story is that everybody has money problems. If you have no money, you have a problem. If you have lots of money, you also have a problem. And so you yourself, when you're pitching, when you have no money, you have to figure out how to solve somebody's problem. Um, to give you an example, I cater towards those who are affluent. I cater to affluent because those who are affluent, they usually have a business that they're running or they're a high paying professional. They do not want to be managing their own properties. It
Mm,
is very, very, very unlikely that they want the problems of handling their own properties. And so for me, that's always a low hanging fruit. I can speak their language, I can do the math and show them how much money you're losing or how much money you're gaining, how I can beat your 7% in the S&P 500 or whatnot, simply by using Airbnb math. Why did I
right.
say that 7%? It's because people who invest usually have a benchmark of 7%. Their cash has to beat 7%. So
Mm,
I know their problem intimately. I can speak their vernacular. I can show them why this is a better option than what they're used to. So therefore, I can close the sale a lot faster. What does that mean for our friend here that is probably brand new and doesn't have very much money? Find an area where people need you. Maybe they're accidental landlords. That's a great one to start. It's a really good one to start. Maybe they just inherited a home out of nowhere. Maybe you're in a rental market where everyone is losing their shirt off their back because rents are way lower than what they just paid for. They need you. They actually need you worse than you think. And you can have a win-win where, hey, Mr. Homeowner, you're losing hundreds of dollars per month on rent. I can help you recover that, and I just want to make the spread. And so there's all kinds of ways, but knowing who you're serving, knowing who you're helping, and solving that big problem from somebody else will keep you rich.
Beautiful. Nice. This next question comes from Jay. He asked, what are the best tech apps to manage a portfolio of 5 properties?
Buy properties, Turno, Airbnb. That's all. That's all. I was going to do, well, I have to record all of my videos. I have them all recorded. I have them all recorded. I might release them um, as we're building this as we're building this next generation of our what I call high revenue Airbnbs, HRSTRs.
Mhm.
Um, I'm going to be just showing people like here's how you manage five. It's so easy. Airbnb does everything. The operations, you can put notes. With every single guest, you can put notes, which I've never heard anyone talk about. It's the best feature on Airbnb is the note section because all you have to do, guys, is when you hover, when you have the multi calendar, hover over the date and the guest, and you can put notes on the side. So when you or your team have a guest coming up, you literally just hover your mouse over. I was like, oh, they needed the baby chair. Boom, done. That's one of the most underutilized features of the Airbnb, and also the newest one where you can show all the pricing from everybody else. Does Sean have a video about that? I was really hoping he'd do a deep dive on that similar property pricing button on Airbnb.
Hmm. I'm not
Sean need
sure.
Sean needs that video. He's the pricing like wizard. And he's
Yep.
such a tech nerd. He loves tech. I need him. Tell Sean, I need you to make the video deep diving into the similar properties because no one else has done it and you're the man to do it. So come on, man.
I'll let him know. I'll give him your message. Awesome. So this will be the last one then. Let me see which one I want to pick. There's so many, man. But we ran through a couple, so I think we uh we got a lot of good ones. I'll just pick um I guess this one. How do you ensure maximum profit on each property? That one come from Kalpana Sharma.
That's such a great question. How do you ensure maximum, sorry, what was the word they used?
Um Maximum profit.
Maximum profit. Yeah, that's great. Maximum profit comes from a few things. Um, Understanding what your offering is. You need to understand what your offering is and to who, because when you serve that niche better than everybody else, they will pay you more. What I like to do with my properties in Calgary, my higher occupancy ones, I have a couple that are higher end, so they're very luxury, but we cater them specifically to families. So, for instance, one of them has like a choo-choo bed, like a little choo-choo train bed and a crib. Not very many Airbnbs will do that because it's extremely risky. Because you're losing an entire bedroom, right? Heads in beds is where we get our revenue. And guess what? The baby's not paying the bill. The baby's not pitching for this night out.
Yeah.
But what we do at that property is we have a choo-choo train bed, we have cribs, we have pack and play cribs, we have, the what's that chair called? The high chair? The high chair. We have an entire toy room in the basement filled with toys. The little kitchen dinette section, little baby table, kid table so they can color and draw, and it's filled with toys. Even like a Power Ranger, Green Ranger, Godzilla one.
Hmm.
And we have kid plates. And the whole point of doing all this, because in the copy, again, I'm big on copywriting. I forget what it says, but it speaks directly to parents. It doesn't speak to anybody else but parents. And the whole gist of it is um, the effect we want to go for is when a mom clicks on this listing and goes, wow, I don't have to pack anything. The less I pack, the better. And for parents who are traveling with kids, it's already a mission. Now they don't have to pack anything because this house has it all. The high chair, the kid dishes. The only thing I think we're missing right now is the monitor, you know,
Hmm.
the video monitor, watch the kids, which we'll
Yeah,
add
yeah.
this season coming up. But we can charge more because for parents, they're looking at all the other high-end houses, but there's no crib. There's no choo-choo train bed for the toddler. There's no games room to keep the kids distracted the entire holiday. Because if they're not distracted, now I have to take care of them. But what if you had a basement filled with toys and an Xbox? The kids are gone. Adults can have their time. And that's really paid dividends in the midterm market season, where that house specifically, we house a lot of, we got a neurosurgeon in right there, a lot of Hollywood stars staying there because now our movie industry is lit up. A lot of CEOs stay there, but that's how you get the best profit is to understand who you serve and serve that niche better than anybody else and make sure you speak your communications to them. You want to go if you're going to go pro mode again, if we're going to go quadrants, the pro quadrant, then you need to start understanding how to do outreach, how to network with those people who you're speaking with, because again, you're solving such a big problem for that niche. Nobody else is. Every Airbnb is doing the same thing. They're just offering a vacation stay for everyone. And if you can solve it for one person, you're going to kick ass.
Yeah. Well, awesome,
That
man.
and being obsessive about expenses. That's one thing that we've learned from Elon and Doge, but just being obsessively controlling your expenses. That's how you make some really good profit there.
Yeah, like you mentioned, all the little things add up. It's like death by a thousand cuts, right?
It's
Like, or
exactly what it is.
something like that, right? Like, every little thing's gonna add up, and before you know it, like being profitable. So, I
Bingo.
definitely could resonate with that. But man, we just covered a lot of ground, and man, I'm new to this like interviewing thing. So, do you think there's anything I missed that I didn't ask you about that you wanted to talk about that you felt like everybody here would really value from hearing, but like before I let you go?
Luxury
Yeah.
is I'm fascinated by luxury. I'm
Hmm.
absolutely fascinated by luxury. I believe it's a word that's been so washed out. Everyone says they have a luxury cabin retreat,
Yep.
luxury urban oasis, luxury
Mhm.
penthouse in the skies, luxury premium condos and townhouses. It's a word that's been robbed of its true essence. And so I've really started to research like what is luxury? What is a luxury product? What is the luxury offering? How do you sell luxury? How do you cater luxury? And I have found that it's a completely different world, a completely different world. It's where I've always wanted to compete on with Airbnb. Hence why my newest Airbnb is strictly catered to high-end executive class. I call it first class executive stays. And so what we want to do is cater towards my favorite after all these years is it's business class. It's executives who are traveling, it's the CEOs, it's the neurosurgeons, because they are by far the best clientele. They they don't nickel and dime you. They pay high ticket because for them, saving time and making sure everything's in place is more important than the price.
Mhm.
So I've really just been enamored by that category of luxury and always wondering like, okay, well, what is luxury? Is luxury like thousand thousand thread Egyptian cotton? Is that what it is? Is it having the best coffee beans? Is it just having $1 million home? And I've come full circle, Alberto, and I was just like, you know what? If I can just cater to that niche, my favorite, which is the high-end business traveler, I think we can produce an experience where they're like, yeah, I'll pay twice as much as the normal Airbnb, or even 30%, 40% more without thinking. Because even though it's in the same building as this Airbnb, this one has everything that I like. And we're going to really merge design and tech in the home. So, I might have things like an Apple Vision Pro in there, right?
Okay.
Like we're going to put a lot of emphasis on building out the office. So it's built for, hey, you come here and you're ready to work. There's monitors, there's, you know, proper lighting, there's stand-up desks, there's Herman Miller chairs, right? High-end, these are like the Ferrari chairs are $3,000 chairs. My
Hmm.
office chair costs $3,000. But when they get there, they're like, yeah, this is where I should be living because I'm here to crush it. I'm here. I want them to walk in and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm ready to sell $1 million. I'm ready to do $1 billion deal in here." So that's why I'm really putting a lot of effort into studying luxury, what's a luxury product, what's luxury branding, and really trying to bring this to life here. That's why it's going to take a lot of, avatar, target avatar research, building it, building up the following before we build the product. Because I don't really think that I've subscribed to the strategy of now building the audience before building the Airbnb. Because if you already have demand for it, then you're good to go. I learned this from a lot of guys like I think his name's Isaac French. Isaac French, he built this like this eight seven cabin lagoon
Mhm.
and he absolutely crushed it, built a whole following, and then he ended up selling for a couple $1 million. But that's what I'm obsessed about right now. It's just luxury. How does that world work?
Nice. So you currently have some luxury Airbnbs, or that's kind of like what you're kind of building towards?
I would call them premium. I
Premium.
think mine are premium. So premium is like, there's mid and then there's premium. And then luxury is the best way to think about it is premium would be like your Gucci's premium. Um, I don't buy a lot of high-end clothes. It's a bad example, but
Gucci, Louis Vuitton, all those
Gucci,
things.
Louis Vuitton, even yeah, that's pretty high end. But luxury is like your Margiela, right? Luxury has to be scarce. You can't just walk in and get one. Luxury has to be it has to have a heritage behind it, a really long heritage, a story behind it that gives it that intrinsic value. The service has to be so attentive, yet not needy, where it's not, hey, good afternoon, sir. It's nice to meet you. They meet you at that same level where it's, good afternoon, sir. How was the polo match today? Wonderful. I was just in Spain and our new horse is going to be competing next week as well. Are you ready for your stay, Mr. Gonzalez? There's
Hmm.
such a different approach to it. So there's so much to learn. And, I want to bring luxury back.
I think that's an excuse, Donnie, for you to go and spoil yourself and like it'll be all in the name of studying. But honestly, because I haven't had like the blessing of having so many luxury experiences, but luckily I've had like a few where maybe I'll go to like Nobu and I
There you
noticed
go.
like the food's cool, right? But the thing that really stood out to me was the attention to detail the servers had,
Bingo.
like how
Bingo.
they like custom tailor like a menu to you, you know? They're like, "Oh yeah, this is what we're trained on, you know. We'll build you the menu." Basically, because you they bring you a bunch of little plates, but like by the end of it you'll be like full, you know, from all the little things they gave you to taste.
Yeah, you bet.
And always, you know, your cup's full, you know. The service is so different. That's the main thing that I liked. And even when at one time I went to buy a luxury handbag, and like I remember the lady texted me, like she got my number down and everything, and I bought it, and they offer you like sparkling or still
Hmm.
water and all that. And then one of the things that stood out to me there was that after I had bought it, and like she followed up with me, and she was like, "Oh, like how did your friend like the bag that you bought her?" And I was like, "That's really cool. I've never in my life had like a salesperson of like a of apparel, you know, message me, you know." So.
And they're following up to make sure that they got it right and to make sure that you are taken care of so
Exactly.
that you'll always remember. It's such a fundamental part of being human, right? Maya Angelou says that no one ever remembers what you say, but they remember how you make them feel. And luxury nails that because even though it was your first maybe luxury handbag that you bought, they made you feel like you've been there 10 years.
Yeah.
Right? So it's that type of experience. I've really always wondered, like, well, how do we do that? Because that's not your normal thing. And they've just butchered luxury everywhere. That's why I've just kind of started, deep diving into it.
Yeah, I heard Bill Burr. He's like a comedian. He's just
Oh
like,
yeah, he's the best.
yeah, he said something along the lines like the only difference in booking first class or something like is that they actually
The
treat you.
curtain.
They well, no, he said like they treat you like a human being, like when you finally do first class. So it's all about like how
Right.
they treat you, I guess. They make because sometimes I think a lot of salespeople have the bad rap of like, oh, they just sell you, get you to sell, and then it's like you're dead to me. Like I don't want to know
Hmm.
nothing
The
about you.
hard sell.
But those little things where they like make you feel like a human being, make you feel important. I think that's like one of the big things in luxury from my little experience that I've seen.
Yeah, you know what? even when I was working with you guys, one of the things I really tried to do was in the very beginning when students would came on, I think A, they could trust me a lot better because I was a host and I had a great story. And because of the way the program optimized my business so much, A, it was very trustworthy. So those who were coming on, they were already more, they already believed it a lot more. But then the second thing is I used to customize a program for them when they
Mm,
first came on. So based on whatever we talked about, I wrote them a roadmap of how to use the program. Like, okay, do this chapter first, then this chapter, then this chapter. And I mapped out their first, I think it was like 90 days. I used to do that in the very, very beginning. Actually, I did it for the first half of when I was there. And then after that, just making sure that they could always call me if they had questions you couldn't reach them, call me. I'll either direct you to the right part of the course because I did the course. I went through the course. I
yep.
applied it to my own business, or I would tell you which coaching call to be on, or I could just, if it wasn't above, I'm not telling 25 unit hosts what to do, but for the beginners, like I could tell you where to go. I could help you up on your journey. So I think a lot of times the students didn't feel like they were just thrown into a course and then goodbye. Don't ever reach me ever again. I could help them along the way with the journey.
Yeah, that really is a difference as well. And and
Because I know
luckily
my,
now we have even more support, like because we have a guy that he does that as well, and he's also like has his own Airbnb, so he knows what he's talking about.
yeah, game
And on top of
changer.
that, a game changer, exactly. On top of that, they get like a one-on-one call with like Monish or Josh, and they'll go
Heck
like,
yeah.
yeah, so a little onboarding thing, and it's really cool. But awesome. Well, I think that's all the questions I had. We've gone over an hour, so thank you so much for your time, Donnie.
My pleasure.
This is really cool. And yeah, if you want to keep up with Donnie, make sure to go ahead and follow him at Taking Lunch Money, right? On
Taking
Instagram.
lunch money.
Taking Lunch Money. And yeah, man, thank you so much for your time, brother.
Thanks, Alberto.
Yes, sir. Bye.
Anyone who wants to come chat some more, come contact me. If you guys want to learn what the heck we're doing here, if you just want to follow along the journey, we'll be posting lots. Taking lunch money, TAKIN, lunch money on Instagram.
Yes, sir. All right. See everybody later. Bye.
Take it easy.